Hi everyone.
G'day.
Welcome to Parkside Live. Grab yourself a drink, hot or cold. It's quite a cold night here, so maybe you want a hot one, but just to get ready for what I think will be a great conversation about seeing beyond survival.
Yeah, by way of introduction, I want to tell a story. We live on the southwest of the city called Sydney, and I was doing some work on the other side of the city, actually. And I had to drive from where I was working and then get across the city to another event. And so I got in my car to leave where I was working, and something happened. Like I put my foot on the accelerator and the engine didn't change at all. And I really didn't know what was that. So I put my foot on the accelerator again and nothing happened at all. And so I thought, I don't know what I can do. And I had a couple of phone calls to friends, and they were equally nonplussed. And so I opened the bonnet and just had a bit of a look and a bit of a play, and I realised that clearly whenever I pushed the accelerator pedal down, the engine revels weren't changing. The engine wasn't increasing in power, and so I didn't have enough really to drive. Like I was just sitting there idling, and I had no spare parts places near me, and I was looking at the whites going, I have to get back. And so I walked into newsagents and I bought a ball of string, quite literally just a ball of string, and went back to the car, popped the bonnet up, found where the accelerator cable connects, and tied one end of the string to the accelerator, put a little loop in the other end, hooked my finger through the loop, got in the car and shut the bonnet, gave it a few test drives, and I found that by just pulling on the string, I could increase the engine revs.
Crazy.
And so I started to drive. And I remember driving along, and I would have this hand resting on the side of the door, and then to change gears, I'd have to grab the steering wheel with my right hand, hold the car straight, clutch in, change gears, grab the... And yeah, I got to tell you, the first couple of gear changes were very rough. And then I decided I'd drive home along the freeway because there are less gear changes on the freeway, so that made for a smooth run. And about an hour and a half later, I made it. I hate to think of what the clutch plate looked after all that acceleration. But we got home. And it is pretty amazing when you find yourself in a tough situation where you don't have any option, and you've just got to work out, what do I need to do to survive? We can be incredibly creative.
Well, that was very creative.
Incredibly. And as you're watching this, you may have some stories where you found yourself in a moment, and perhaps it's not a mechanical situation, but you feel like you don't have any other option, and you make a decision, this is what I need to do to survive. I mean, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you felt like you really don't have too many options and you've just had to kind of create a way temporarily through it?
I don't know that there's like anything kind of like that. I was just thinking about sometimes you just have to get through stuff, and so, you know, even when I was diagnosed with cancer and then just having to navigate all that and going, well, there's only one way kind of through, and we just have to go and kind of, you know, see what happens as we go. So making choices, you know, as we kind of take those steps, it's kind of like, you know, you can either just survive or go, all right, we've got to make the best of it kind of thing.
Yeah, and if you're watching alone, perhaps now's a good moment to comment or write down somewhere, are you there? This is a moment I've had to do what I needed to survive. If you're watching with a few friends, it's a good time to maybe share a few stories. But there are moments. You may find yourself in a moment of financial challenge where you are holding 2 and 3 jobs down simply to get through this moment in time. You may find yourself in a work situation and you think, I just need to get through this. And so you're making decisions and taking actions to survive that you wouldn't in any other relationship situation. And if you're tuned into the news, you will be reminded of the horrors that are being inflicted on the people in Gaza who are just simply doing what they need to do to try and feed their families. And so there's a spectrum here, and we all encounter our own problems. I think the challenge is, if we live in that mode, it then changes how we think through our lives. You know, if we're living in a survival mode, science will actually tell us that it shifts the part of our brain that we use to solve problems. You know, our response kind of just simplifies into fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah, I've got to do something. And actually overlooks some of the deeper problem-solving parts of who we are, the more creative aspects. So imagine what I could have done with a few more resources. So it changes. And in survival mode, we are consistently looking for danger as opposed to opportunities. That when we're in survival mode, it changes the way we are in our bodies. That in survival mode, our body says, okay, you got to do some stuff here, elevates our heart rate, elevates our blood pressure so that we are ready for action. Now, that's powerful if you're about to step on a snake. But if that's the way that you've spent the last month, that's doing bad things to your physiology. And so we recognize that there is a need for us to survive. You know, where we are right now, there's been a lot of discussion about the impact of interest rates on the economy, and people are saying, I've just got to make my payment for my house. And really, that, you know, you've got to keep a roof over your head, but that then has shut them down to supporting other people who may not even have a roof over their head, but are looking for how to get bread in. It narrows our focus. And yet, for some people, that's the way that they want to live. But I think that there is another way. There is another way to live. And we're going to draw some inspiration tonight from an old letter written to a group of people who were existing in the margins of society. They weren't a group big enough to influence the government of the day. They weren't a group big enough yet to really have anyone take notice. But they were a group of people who were drawn from the edges, from the lower classes of their society. And yet they were trying to find another way to navigate through their lives. And so we're just going to read here from the book of Romans. And we're starting in chapter 13, verse 8. And it just says this. It's writing, it says, owe nothing to everyone, good advice, except for your obligation to love one another. If you love your neighbour, you will fulfill all the requirements of God's law. The commandments, and he's talking now about an older holy writings that talked about this is what you must do and must not do. And he says, if you look at these, they say, don't commit adultery, don't murder, you must not steal, you must not covet or desire someone of someone else. These and other such commandments are summed up in this one commandment: love your neighbour as yourself. Love does no wrong to others, and so love fulfills the requirements of God's law. And then he goes on to say, this is all the more urgent, for you know how late it is. Time is running out. Wake up, for our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. The night is almost gone. The day of salvation will soon be here. So remove your dark deeds like dirty clothes and put on the shining armour of right living. Because we belong to the day, we must live decent lives for all to see. Don't participate in the darkness of wild parties and drunkenness or sexual promiscuity and immoral living, or in quarreling or jealousy. Instead, clothe yourselves with the presence of the Lord Jesus Christ, and don't let yourself think about ways to indulge your evil desires. Now, there's a lot in that, but we just want to explore tonight this idea of being awake. He says here, wake up, for our salvation. The end of our problems is nearer now than when we first believed. And there's a few things that came up there, but I think the cry to wake up matters just as much now as it did when this was first penned years ago. And we can move through our lives, we can move through situations trying to numb ourselves in some kind of, I'm trying to ignore what's happening in my life, what's happening around me, rather than engage. I'm trying to go through my life asleep. And if you've been through a little bit of life, you know that there is perhaps a habit that you might form. For example, I don't know, do you have something that you could share perhaps?
Yeah, I think at different times there might have been different things. Like, as you were reading, I was going, I think I've previously, maybe not so much now with kids and family, but I used to, I love reading, there's nothing wrong with reading, but I think sometimes too it was an escape. Like, if I was somewhere where I'd feel uncomfortable, if I had a book that I could sit in a corner, just, kind of try and fade into the background, or I'll just keep reading. I guess like maybe some of us might keep scrolling, as a way of just going, I just don't want to deal with what's going on now. So I'll sink into the otherworldliness of a book or...
and on the surface of it, you think, well, there's nothing wrong with reading a book. Yeah. Books can offer a different perspective on the world. Books can offer in addition to the knowledge.
Yes.
But you're saying that in addition to all that, you could use a book to avoid an issue or a situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would know the difference. Like, to everyone else, it might look the same, but I know.
And then you touched on scrolling. Someone around this table actually earlier today shared that when they feel overwhelmed, that's their go-to. Yeah. That they just numb. And as we're going through this, we may have all sorts of things. In the heat of summer, at the end of a working week, I used to just enjoy having a beer at the end of the week. And it was good, and it was one beer, and I was fine. What I realized about myself was that in that moment of relaxing, there was a whole lot of internal processes that were becoming connected to just having that beer. And I thought, I don't want to numb myself. I actually want to learn to live awake. I actually want to learn to live. And so I made a decision actually at the start of the year, I'm not going to do that. Like, for a month, I'm going to have a month off, and never went back. Yeah. Because I learned to just relax at the end of the week without that.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing wrong with one beer, but for me, that was opening up something and it wasn't helping me be alive. And as you're watching this, you may have a process in your mind that, even as we're sharing some examples, that comes to mind, and you think, this is not helping me to live awake. Yeah. It is numbing me. It is shutting me off from the situation that's in front of me. Yeah. It is numbing me to perhaps the people who are around me. It is numbing me to another way of living. It's not creating a restlessness, but actually a lethargy that says, I'm not moving forward. And so this line here says, wake up. Yep. There was a wise man by the name of Thomas Merton, and he said this: the spiritual life, therefore, is chiefly a matter of staying awake. And I just want to take just a sidetrack here. If you're watching this and you've been around church circles or religious circles, there is even a way where reciting creeds, reciting well-used phrases can be a way of numbing you to what is going on, a way of saying, of soothing you, when in fact what is needed most in this moment is to wake up.
Yeah.
What is needed most in this moment to realize, like this man says here, that our time is short.
Yeah.
And as we go down this list here, there's actually a whole list of things that people use to numb themselves way back in the day.
Yeah.
Parties and orgies and all that. And, whether that's your particular thing or not, it's not the point.
Yeah.
But are you staying awake? Are you staying awake to the challenges of your life? Are you staying awake to the challenges in your community? Are you staying awake to the challenges of this globe? Or are you just trying to numb yourself and trying to sleep through? Because what we see here is that there is a better way. There is a better way than numbing ourselves here. And this is right here. It's the way of love. Love each other. Owe nothing to anyone except the debt of love. And I want to say this is not a self-help moment.
Yeah.
That what we're talking about here is actually the way of Jesus. And there's a contrast between numbing yourself and actually putting on, he says here, like a new set of clothes, putting on the spirit of the one who stepped into this world, the spirit of the one who was awake to our sufferings, the one who was awake to our pain, to actually, like you put on a jacket on a cold day to say, okay, Jesus, I'm stepping into your moment. And in that moment, instead of needing to numb ourselves to the world around us, instead of being overwhelmed perhaps by our anxieties, instead of taking a deep breath and becoming self-reliant, this is an invitation to live a different way, to turn in a different direction, and to actually say, Jesus, I want to live this life of love. I want to live your way, and to receive this love afresh. Because when we engage with the world from a place of anxiety, it's about overwhelm and I cannot. When we engage in the world from a place of self-sufficiency, it's I don't need anyone else and I'm fine. And yet the way of Jesus says that there is a power greater than my anxiety, that there is an ability greater than my abilities, and I'm going to trust you, Jesus, in this moment. We recognize that there are moments in our lives where we do need to survive. And yet for all of us, the world is a better place when we choose to see beyond survival, where we choose to engage with a life-giving person beyond our own strengths, a life-giving power beyond our own fears. And if you want to engage in this life-giving way of love, if you want to move beyond numbness and live a life that is truly awake, this is the path that Jesus invites us to. It will lift us beyond our anxieties. It will stretch us beyond our own capabilities. But we will see a new way of life expressed in ourselves and emerging in the world, because this same Jesus Christ is already at work. And we're going to invite you, if you want to step further into that way of love, if you want to step further into living a life wide open, we're just going to invite you to pray this simple prayer, and that is, Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. And in that moment, you will start to experience the love that we just read about here, that you'll start to experience the life awake that we've discussed, that you will experience who Jesus is in this moment right now. If that's a step that you're ready to take, a courageous step of faith, then we invite you to pray, Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. And if you just stepped into that moment of wakefulness, if you pray that short prayer, we would love to help you on whatever the next step is for you. Please drop us a comment, direct message, or if you're passing through South Sydney, we'd love for you to join us and others as we discover the way of Jesus. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.